Hi, it's Dave. In this video, I chat with Kristen, who goes by K10 on Twitter. She's been a devoted Tesla activist on Twitter for the past few years and was instrumental in founding the Third Row podcast, which interviewed Elon Musk on various occasions. I dive into why and how she got involved advocating for Tesla on Twitter, how she views the future of social media, and what kinds of challenges might lie ahead for Tesla. All right, today I'm joined with Kristen. She goes by K10 on Twitter. And the best way I can describe her, at least from my perspective, is she is a Tesla activist on Twitter, very passionate about the company, about Elon, about SpaceX. And today I have the chance to interact, to talk with her, get to know her, and also try to get a sense of the history of Tesla on Twitter, and also get some ideas on Tesla going forward. Hi, Kristen, how are you doing?
Hi, Dave. Thanks. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Great, yeah, thanks for coming on, and I appreciate just taking your time.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
Yeah,
wonderful.
I'm curious. Can you help us kind of maybe understand like your background on Tesla and Twitter? Like, how did you get started? What was the time, the moment where you're like, I've got to get into this world of Tesla Twitter and really,
Yeah.
stake your claim?
So it kind of all came about in one moment. I wasn't on Twitter before. I got involved in Tesla about the same time that I got involved on Twitter. I just was reading up some stuff on Elon's companies, reading up and learning about him and just what a fascinating, amazing mind and talent he is, and wanting to get involved in following what he was doing. Got on Tesla Twitter. I mean, he's pretty vulnerable and open, just reading what was happening. And I just jumped right in. I was pouring a lot of time into it. It was just a time in my life where I was going through some transition, and I just kind of really poured a lot of into it. And the community is wonderful. It grew a lot from there. But this was back like April 2018 when the FUD wars, when Tesla was ramping up the Model 3, and it was a big make or break for Tesla. So a lot of us were there, and we were reading different media articles that were putting out a lot of different spins on FUD, to help you maybe dock the stocks or something like that. But a lot of us were fighting it. We were debunking it. So got passionate into it. I kind of throw myself into things.
Yeah, yeah. What were some of the most memorable kind of media articles that you kind of still remember to this day?
Yeah. Oh, so media articles. There's some that I debunked that were interesting, but it's hard because a lot of them were tied to Tesla Q. I mean, Mark B. Spiegel. Some of his comments and articles, or just him being on CNBC, were hilarious. But getting to seeing that a lot of the media groups were backed by probably stock that has more interest in oil, like Jalopnik or just Legacy Auto, and then finding articles where like the CEO had stated, we're going to favor Legacy Auto and slant on them or something, and then Elon reading it. Or there's quite a lot of them. I can't remember any at the moment perfectly, but there's a lot of big articles.
Yeah, yeah. What was your take? I noticed back in 2018,
Yeah,
there was such a onslaught of FUD against
yeah.
Tesla, but also specifically against Elon himself. It almost was like this personal, onslaught against him. Like, what do you think was the root causes of this? Was this some type
Mm.
of campaign that had some people orchestrating it from behind the scenes, do you think? Do you speculate on, or do you think this was more just an organic type of, media coverage on Tesla during its like most vulnerable time where it just, I don't know. What's your take on kind of what happened?
I think it's both. I think that was around the time when I forget the pilot Paul has his account that he started the Tesla Q block list. And I think I'm on it twice because I had changed my handle name at that time. It's kind of a name that they give you with a bunch of numbers, and people are like, "What is that?" Kristen changes, so I changed it. But I think it's both. I think because Elon is a vulnerable person and he was going through a vulnerable time. I mean, you can really discredit people by just honing in on that. He listens to what people say and he cares. So I think there was people that probably intentionally did that. There's a lot of jealousy towards Elon as a person. I mean, he succeeded, and there's just some people who are bitter and odd that like to make things worse or just get hangups on that. But just in general, I think it was a non-coordinated and a coordinated attack for sure.
Hmm.
I mean, the articles are writing things that were, some of them were just completely BS. So
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Like sometimes I speculate, like obviously, I mean, we don't know all of the facts and we may never know all of the facts, but it just seems like the amount of coverage that was on the major news outlets every single week against Tesla and Elon, it just didn't seem coincidence, you know? And
Exactly.
it seemed like there was some type of minds out there. I don't know exactly who, but probably, I mean, this is just out of the blue speculation, but perhaps, some like more on the retail short, like one or two people combined with some connections with some bigger money, combined with maybe a strategy to really connect and reach out to media and journalists to get them on board. But it just seemed like, yeah, it seemed like it wasn't just, coincidence alone. It seemed like there was something happening behind the scenes, pretty big. Just my,
Most definitely.
yeah,
And it felt good. I mean, this is silly, but it did feel good to encourage Elon as a person because I do feel like he has a very straightforward, like earnest way of what he's doing. And I think a lot of people wanted to read other things into it that weren't there, but you could see, I mean, you could just see and hear his feeling down on things. And I think it was good to stand behind somebody that you feel like it was really making such a big greater good for society and other people to a selfless degree. So
mhm,
yeah, it was a good cause. It still
yeah.
is, but
What made you kind of stick through those difficult times? Because there were a couple times where, it seemed like Elon might have stepped across the line.
mm,
And like, how did you see past that to
mm,
understand where Elon was coming from, to understand his strengths, to understand the ultimate bigger picture that he's sacrificing a lot to build these companies which have an immense amount of impact and significance in the history of and the future trajectory of our world. And how were you able to kind of parse that and to, kind of filter and I guess digest, certain things that might be discouraging, for some people at that time, might have been discouraging for some people who were
mm.
Elon or Tesla fans to go through some of the things during that year.
So I mean, I think maybe the 420 example is that one that maybe that you're thinking about possibly.
Sure, like 420, or I mean the battle with pedo guy.
Yeah, the Peter guy was a big
Yeah,
one,
I see. Yeah,
and that was quite a big breakdown. I mean, the Elon didn't do anything outlandish. I mean, he physically didn't go out and assault anybody. I mean, that term in itself brought up a lot of, I mean, we live in a term where a time where anything you say can be taken and construed, plus canceling you. Um, and it was quite a, I mean, that thing is quite a touchy subject. I just feel like I don't think he has these ulterior intentions. I think he says things off the cuff. And I think for the amount of greater good that he's doing, not that you turn a blind eye to mistakes, but we can't state that anybody's without error. I mean, we'd be hypocrites in ourselves because we all create error. So he definitely has had times, and he has a brutal amount of is stress. So I would think, I mean, with the 420, we look back and it was hacked up to a late night on Ambien, and something that he said off the cuff on Twitter, which you can do. But I mean, if you look at Elon's history of tweeting, he didn't really grow in predominant like following of people replying as much until probably like I would say towards the late 2017s. And then right into the 2018s is really where the community blew up. And I think Elon's tweeting and people replying to it. I mean, there was his followers who were always there and replying, but he really gained a lot of traction in those times. So those were ones. And the pedo thing that I mean, that was that really was hard for a lot of people. Even him, I think, tweeting out the word freedom in capital letters, just because people by dual association wanted to say that looked like something it wasn't. But I don't know. That's my opinion.
yeah. The 420 tweet, I was actually I think it's remarkable. After he tweeted that, I actually replied to him. I'm like, hey, if you go private, can you make sure to keep in mind retail shareholders that have been with Tesla
Right.
for a long time? Can you make sure they can find a way to get into this private company? And he replied actually that morning. He's like, sure, I will make sure to look out for retail shareholders. And later on, when the whole private deal fell through, he attributed one of the reasons was because he couldn't really find a way to get retail shareholders into the private company. And so it's like I gained a lot of respect actually for Elon throughout that whole time because he could have taken the easy way out. He could have taken Tesla private, but he understood his relationship with the retail investors, with thousands and hundreds of thousands of people who were were supporting him and betting on Tesla and the company, and he didn't forget them, and I don't think I'll ever forget that Elon didn't forget, retail investors, and he's a man of his word in a lot of ways, especially when it comes down to that.
I completely agree, and I think I remember you tweeting that because I liked that.
Yeah.
And I remember I was online the night that he did do that, and I remember that. Yeah, that is, and you are right about the retail investors. I think we watch Galley from Hyperchange, and he pushes at it as well too. And I think that's where Tesla's kind of the organic movement that is really retail investor underdog moved, not the not the stock exchange and the big hedge fund groups over there that were pushing it. It was these little guys. So very cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it just seems like really ironic in a sense that, perhaps one of the greatest business stories and success stories in the last decade that is going to have, and it's already having a major impact in our society and in economy and climate, was a story that was largely missed and derided by Wall Street. And Elon just had the hardest time with, a lot of the old guard. And yet it
Yeah.
was a story that was picked up by kind of the renegades, the person here
Yeah.
or there, the individuals on Twitter, and those who saw past, maybe the surface into like what really Elon was trying to do. And I think one of the things I appreciate about Elon was that he was able to give so many interviews over the years where I felt like I was able to get to know him, like through all these interviews. If he had never done any interviews, I think it would
Yeah.
be a lot more difficult to find that connection, with Elon. But because he's put himself out there over the years, like I appreciate that honesty and that transparency as a CEO. And like I think he's done in that sense like a great contribution, not just with Tesla, but by sharing his story. And his stories, his principles, his lessons really resonate with a lot of people. They help people out, and a lot of people I think learn tremendously from Elon's talks and his interviews.
Absolutely. No, I completely agree. He's quite down to earth for being a CEO that's accomplished so much. Elon isn't just the person that looks at just the engineers out there or just the talents out there. I mean, I think he has a keen knack for the ability to see it and hone it in just to bring it in really fast. But he also looks at just the people who are nobodies, or what you would, or society would call a nobody, people who are small and growing, and he sees that there's much to give to those people, and that something will come back. I mean, he just invests in society, in people, and he cares. It's really refreshing.
Mhm. I'm wondering, in your experience on Twitter and social media, there seems to be a growing kind of battle in terms of what is true versus what is like maybe not true. There seems to be a lot of noise, and it seems like anyone can create any account anywhere. And oftentimes, the person who posts the most or is the loudest and has like some form of like maybe trying to be rational reasoning, like they seem to be gathering more followers. And it seems like there's the general population doesn't seem to like completely know how to discern like all the mess of everything that's on social media. Like in your experience, like where is this headed? Like I mean, it seems like a concern right now in 2020, but like, is this going to get better somehow? Are we going to be able to find truth more easily? Let's say in 5 or 10 years, like what's going to help us? Or is this going to be a bigger problem in the future where you have just various stories and narratives from everything where it's going to be harder and harder to discern, objective reality and truth?
That is interesting. I did just do a tweet earlier on groupthink and a study that had been done on that, a video. Um, I mean, it depends on the individuality, but once again, groupthink kind of reigns to that degree. The majority of people do go with a consensus that seems popular. The algorithms work like that, and people have learned to hack the algorithms. I know some pretty large accounts that have actually taken note on how to hack the algorithms and done really well, but there's not a lot of uniqueness in that. I mean, anybody, I mean, if you're smart enough, can really repeat a process. So, and then there's just people like you said that just go ahead and state things. Twitter was giving badges to doctors that were verified. I mean, there is that through the COVID. I was nervous to say COVID. Sorry, on Twitter you can't say COVID or you get like shadow banned. Yeah, so I mean, Twitter has taken note on how to verify people and what counts, because it used to be at a certain number of amount you could get a blue badge, and now I think you really have to have made some kind of predominant thing in society, or accomplish something just to get your voice heard. But then again, there's the kind of thinking that Elon has where, I mean, you don't have to have a degree and he's going to hire you if you've actually accomplished something or a task, or you're proven. So it's going to get worse. I mean, there's the AIs that actually run accounts that are growing in large popularities, and they work like HBO and Netflix that are making the movies that are based off the algorithms to please the most majority of people. So it's probably going to get worse because that's the way the algorithms work. How do you see it, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, it's I call it kind of a crisis of truth in some ways, and it's yeah. I mean, as you say, like with AI, it's we're gonna be unable in some ways to distinguish what's from a person versus a computer and what their intentions are. You know, like you don't
Yeah.
even know why the AI is producing a trillion pieces of content that look like masterpieces, you know, and
Yeah.
hit you in the right spot, right? The right emotional place. Um, and it's, yeah, it's one of the challenges of technology, where you have a lot more reach and power that's given to those who have messages, but you also have that danger where it could be a weapon in some ways as well. And
You could.
yeah, we're going into uncharted territory, it seems like. I don't think
Sure.
any civilization in the history of the world has entered a place of so much noise and so much just media and an explosion of information all at once. And it's going to be definitely a crazy world going forward.
It
Um,
is.
I'm curious. I'm wondering, have you noticed kind of this big shift in attitude on Twitter or in the general population regarding Tesla and Elon, back from, let's say, 2018, when it was highly negative, to something maybe more positive? And when did that switch occur, in your opinion? Was there any catalyst or any specific reason you think that that happened?
I guess it depends on what group I'm talking to for the day. I mean, there's certain political parties like that probably would never care for Elon because he's a billionaire. But the cars themselves, I mean, are self-advertising, and we're seeing more of them on the road, and we're seeing a lot of people comment on it a lot more. I think when did the shift happen? When did I see? I mean, I live within the thick of it, within the eye of it, so it's harder for me to be on the outskirts and state if I see it happening further out there, but it is happening. Hmm. I don't know. I think people see that he's just successful, so in the momentum, and that the fact that, I mean, their earnings are in the green, they're not in the red, and that they're doing really well. And I think for those that were the naysayers, I mean, like we're looking at the S&P coming out, the portfolios that are going to have to buy the stock by like what, December 21st. I think we're seeing that Tesla kind of won in a way. They've kind of like arrived to a point that the stock market or whatever back there, it has to accept them. So I think it's been a slow process, but it's been a definite process, and it's like, right. I think it's happening now, actually, like the acceptance of it. It's almost a forced acceptance, but it's as if there was a willful ignorance not to like him for personal reasons, but
Mhm.
and Tesla or whatever. But
Got it.
yeah.
Going forward with Tesla Q, or the whole Tesla kind of shorts bearers out there, um, do you think, in a sense, like it probably, won't be completely game over? Like there'll still be resistance and,
Right.
skeptics, for as long as we know. But what do you think will motivate Tesla Q, or those who are like kind of very harshly skeptical, not just skeptical in a rational sense, but very emotionally heated, in
Yeah.
that, like, if there's no longer, let's say, a big financial like motivation where they want to see Tesla fail completely, going bankrupt, what other motivation do you think there is out there for them to continue?
God, that's really hard. Um, I think you did hit it on the head that it is an emotional connection there, which I mean, what we know about stocks is that you're not supposed to invest into stocks emotionally, which is an ironic thing. Um, but what is keeping them going? I think pride, maybe. I don't quite know. I don't function like that as a person. Like I don't run bitter really. I don't understand why you would continue in a negative direction. But I guess some people just feel that it needs to be a drum they need to beat. I don't know. Maybe they do it elsewhere. Maybe they get a lot of attention. I mean, any attention, even negative attention, is good attention for some people. But you understand finances a whole lot better than I do, and you probably actually know people who are pretty good at shorting. So, what do you think? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting. I mean some of the stuff that's happening with Tesla and has happened in the past is fascinating because it's not just like a financial thing and not just like a sociological cultural thing, but it's also like individual psychology as well. Like in some ways I feel like there's something about Elon that might trigger some people like on on an individual psychological level with certain issues or things where it's not completely explainable on like on a maybe more apparent or surface level. And yeah, I mean it's fascinating to me. Yeah, that of all people that that there would be this kind of group that's very invested in a negative kind of outcome for Tesla or for Elon. I mean, it's sad in a lot of ways. It's because the bigger picture is what company in the world is doing more for the world, than let's say Tesla or SpaceX. And we want to see, people all band together to support, perhaps one of the greatest companies doing good in the bigger picture. But yet it seems like it just seems like sometimes in life it just isn't as clean and as ordered as we might expect it to be. Sometimes it can be a bit messy, and so yeah, it's interesting stuff.
That is interesting. I think what you said about individuality and personal there is a big thing. Elon is not about his individuality and personal. That is to the wayside, to the ultimate goal of how he's helping humanity. And a lot of the Tesla Q are more about, it's more a personal thing to them. It's about themselves instead of hanging up themselves and moving forward towards a goal. It is about here. I think you're right about that. That probably is a problem. They don't know how to move past themselves.
Yeah, yeah. I differ from some folks in the Tesla bull camp where I personally actually like look at Tesla Q as individuals where
Mm,
I actually respect them as individuals
yeah,
and their right to have doubts and to express those doubts. And so
definitely.
I'm actually like, I rarely like, you know, say anything too negative about them as people. I mean, as
Yeah,
their
yeah,
position, I'll debate their positions and stuff. But I think
definitely.
sometimes that's hard to remember in social media that there's always people behind, the tweet or the post, and their lives that are
Yeah.
impacted. And as much as, for example, Tesla's gone up, there are lives who've been negatively impacted by those who have bet against
Mhm.
Tesla.
Yeah.
And I'm not one to gloat in that at all. I think,
Yeah.
yeah, there's some sensitivity that needs to happen. Just my personal thought. I mean, other people can
Totally
can
agree.
disagree, with me on that.
No, I think there definitely is different personalities. Or there could just be people that have a history of just shorting in general, and it's their operandi. I agree with you. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know these people on a personal level for sure.
yeah,
And only the really harsh accounts are the ones that I guess stand out and that I possibly
sure.
get attacked by personally. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely. I'm curious. I've noticed you've posted some videos on some full self driving, and I'm really interested in what your experience with full self driving is. When did you get your beta access, and how has it been so far?
So I got it within the first week that the invites were going out. I got it not soon after. I think a handful, maybe three or four other people got it. I got it, I think, the next day. I think Tesla Raj and Tesla owners of Silicon Valley got it first, and then I think a few other people, and then I got it. So I've been out driving, and it's been amazing. And I think there's a lot of misunderstanding behind it. So as they're pushing these software, these different software like packages like this build and that build. They've also just enabled some that are already probably perfected to some degree on our car because they're working on different software builds that are marginal and then like marginal pieces that they're adding to it. So that's my personal take that that they're going to repackage it all and put it back together. I don't know the whole theory behind how they're all working and what different. I mean, you can watch Green only or Green his stuff that he talks about and behind the scenes and the way that they're possibly doing it. But we're just driving and we're just testers. So, but it's been good. It's been wild. It's definitely a beta.
Yeah, like how often are you experiencing interventions, and like in a scale of like 0 to 10, how, and of course this will change over time. You know, next month it will be better and it'll get better and better. But at this current time, like let's compare like when beta first came out, like was it 3 weeks ago or something, or
Oh god, it was almost 2 months ago. I think it
really?
was
Was it that?
right
Wow.
around Halloween.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Time flies. Probably a month and a half
Yeah.
at least. Like how, in terms of the confidence of feeling safe and, you know, inside the car, what from a 0 to 10 perspective back then, when compared to a 0 to 10 perspective right now, has it improved at all? Is it similar? Like kind of what's been your experience?
So it's improved in some areas, and then in other areas, it seems like it's reverted. So that is in itself different and odd. But as most people know, it continues to do really well on highways and interstates. But this is the FSD beta for city, so we're doing city streets. But it's doing different things. Like one moment, something that everyone on full self driving that it should have down in some areas, it continues to do well in those areas for their cars. But all of a sudden, it's doing something weird, like the wheel will shake or it will hug the right curb a little bit more than it did. So it's not. It's like this.
Got it.
It hasn't really like. It has done right hand turns and other things a lot smoother. And it is recognizing in an intersection at mass when there's a lot of things going on, it's actually capable of making very clean turns better than it was at first. So I have to say with that, that's a huge thing. At least, yeah, I mean, in general, that's a big thing. So yeah.
Got it. Do you think Tesla will release this wide release in the next few months, or do you think it's going to take some time to get the kinks out more?
So Elon did state it would be out probably about around now, right? Like the FSD wide release, which that's the running joke with Elon stuff that it goes out a little bit later.
Sure.
I think it will be months out. And I think it will probably be tiered again. I don't think it's going to be a full wide release. I think there's so many people doing a lot of videos. I think like Kim Paquette, you could watch. She does a lot of videos, and you can see there's more edge cases in there. But once again, I don't understand what the whole patch when it all gets put together. Maybe it will be ready. You know, I don't understand the whole exact logic behind what they're testing with
Yeah.
the cars, and so
Like,
I think it's going to be a ways out still, though.
okay, got it. Do you think, in terms of Tesla's Robotaxi plans, like, do you think there's something, like, how do you view it? Like, do you think that this is going to come to fruition, you know, within the next couple of years, where we'll see actual robotaxis without human drivers in them picking up passengers? Like, or do you think this is going to be like, is this going to be, you think, a faster rollout than some people expect generally? And it'll surprise people at how good, you know, robotaxi is working, let's say in 2022, 2023? Or do you think that this will be kind of a challenging rollout more so, and Tesla will have to really like prove themselves each and every way, you know, going forward?
So I think the data that they would have used for mass amount of drivers on the road for 2020 has been greatly diminished. So we see that it's being pushed back. That's my opinion, because people weren't driving during COVID. I mean, they just weren't, they were home. So I think in general, that's one of the things that'll push it back and has pushed it back. I don't know what degree they've lost a lot of data. I mean, without people driving, but I do think it'll be further out than we thought it would be. And I definitely think Tesla has had more time to put it in place. So their cars that they're leasing, that they're going to put in, that they're calling back in the lease when the lease is up, that they're going to put into the taxi network, will be ready. And I think they'll execute it. I think they'll execute it pretty. I mean, it's going to be like the FSD beta. It's going to ease out a little bit, but then I think it's going to execute really fast, in my opinion. And I do think, as far as having a driver, I think I mean, there's the idea that it can contract with like different groups, like the Ubers and stuff like that, and you could have a driver, or it could just be the whole fleet without drivers. So I don't know. And there's also the idea that the hardware for that would be coming out and a new chip would be what would be a steering wheel driverless driver. So we know that they have plans on paper, and we know they're working at things in advance. So I don't know. It'll be. What do you think?
Yeah, no, it's I mean, I think generally speaking, people like, I think Tesla hyper fans, they understand the significance of robotaxi and they believe in it. But then I think the vast majority of people, 99% of people don't really like, they discount it, right? They think it
Uh,
could be possible like 5 or 10 years down the road, but I don't think there's a ton of people who really think robotaxis are here within the next 3 or 4 years. And so I think Tesla can surprise people, and yeah, earlier on I was more cautious, like in 2017 or so 16. I was like, this could take a bit of time, because people were super excited back then too, thinking full self-driving was going to come out within a year or so. But now I think actually they've really got their stuff together. So we'll see. I'm excited. I'm waiting to get my full self-driving phone call and update
nice.
onto my computer or onto my car. So I can't wait to test it out myself. I think yeah, it'll be awesome. Yeah.
That'll be really exciting. Yeah, you'll have you'll have fun.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. um, I'm curious. Several months ago, earlier in this year, we found out that Tesla had released or let go of their whole PR department or folks, and Tesla is very unconventional in how it markets and how it gets the word out. I mean, it's kind of amazing. Like you have a car company, or say a tech company in a sense, selling hundreds of thousands of cars, but they're not doing traditional marketing in many ways. Um, do you think Tesla is doing enough to get the word out? Do you think they need to do some type of advertising? Maybe not so much traditional TV advertising, but do they need to come up with some creative ways to get the word out more? In your relationships with people in community and around, do you think people just do they know enough about Tesla? And if they don't, what can Tesla do to help, bridge that gap of information and awareness?
I don't think people in general know enough about Tesla. I think when you look at traditional auto manufacturers and the amount of advertising they do and the slants that they take towards pushing oil, um, they know a lot about that. A lot of people know about the internal combustion engine and what is that and what they expect in the next car they want there. Elon has stated that they don't. I mean, they don't work with the traditional PR department, and Twitter has done a great job for them. A lot of the accounts on there, but he did talk about possibly entertaining the idea of. I mean, they had it with the last voting, like PR department. Um, and I think the demand for Tesla. I mean, they were building gigafactories as fast as they could keep up with the demand, and even I mean, now we're looking at the batteries and supply chain right now just to keep up with that. So they can entertain, in my opinion, the ability to advertise now because the demand to keep up with it is there. Um, and I hope they do it in a creative way that's a different format because they seem to that's the way they operate. And it would be more beneficial for people, especially going about the route talking about things like cobalt, ways that different groups you find have intentionally slanted and made it look like it's only Tesla that's doing this and it's this horrible thing when there's so much more backstory to it and it's not what they perceive because they've been kind of lied to in a way. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Um, I'm wondering, upcoming, let's say looking out a year in 2021, is there anything like what's the most exciting thing that you're thinking about regarding Tesla? Is there any one thing, whether it's like Cybertruck or full self-driving or their new factories, like is there anything that you're thinking, wow, 2021 is exciting for Tesla because of this?
That's hard because Berlin's coming on, like Texas is coming on, the semi, the roadster, the Cybertruck. I think the semis are going to make the biggest dent watching those, and I think for that industry, that's going to be pretty innovative. Like it's gonna revamp and do a lot of things that are pretty big. I think the semis are actually going to speak in volumes of PR itself, what they do, because there's a lot of people. I mean, it's really a blue collar worker job, and that area is is fraught with diesels and people who are in that. But that's gonna bring over a lot of people in that kind of thinking and area to helping with Tesla. But I think the semis, if you think about it, would be probably what I'm most excited about. The full self-driving, of course, obviously I'm personally excited about, but that's something more that the people who are already involved in kind of the tech community and Teslas themselves are more excited about. So that's something the Robotaxi network itself will bring the rest of the population on board. So
Yeah. What do you think is the biggest risk factor for Tesla going forward? I mean, a lot of times in the Tesla fan bull club, you have people declaring already Tesla has won the decade.
yeah,
It's like it's over,
yeah.
2030 is already here. But yeah, we all know things can happen. Sometimes things don't happen like what we expect it to be. Like look at this year, who expected 2020?
Yeah.
But do you see any kind of risk factors ahead for Tesla? Like what is perhaps the biggest one?
That's funny you say risk because I like to explain Elon as the tactician that's playing the game Risk. If you've ever played the game
Yeah, I
Risk,
love that game.
I feel Tesla's like that.
Mhm.
So the biggest risk factor, boy, I, they're so there's I mean they work like they're so tactical in the way that they implement and roll out. So Giga Berlin had some hiccups, but even at that, they were still pushing up, and now they're logging the trees down. I can't really think of any. They seem pretty solid in the decisions they make. I do like the fact that they go right into China and right into Germany, right in the heart of things, and not attack per se, but just settle camp.
Mhm.
But what are the risk factors you see?
Yeah.
I'm curious.
I mean, I think part of it is like Tesla is, at least personally, my personal view, Tesla is not led in a normal way. Like Elon is not a normal CEO. He doesn't lead by committee. He doesn't lead by consensus. He doesn't do the quote unquote safe way or the rational way per se. I mean, it is rational in a sense, but um, Elon is dictated by a different kind of set of criteria and how he sees situations. And that's what defines Tesla in many ways. And that's why, like, for example, the first Gigafactory, it's like huge. Have you ever been to Reno Gigafactory by chance?
I've driven by it, but I haven't. I
Okay.
actually just got an offer to tour it, like when it
Yeah.
opens up. So I'm pretty excited. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I got a tour when it first opened up like several years ago. They had a party there. And it's like, it blew my mind. I mean, I've
wow.
toured Fremont's factory a few times, like several times over the years. And every time it's a great tour. I love Fremont factory and all that. But the Nevada Gigafactory, it's like it's on a different level. Like the scale is just it just like scratches your mind, and you're just like I was just mind blown after that. And I was talking to an executive after the day after that event, and I was like, "Yeah, this is huge." And he's like, "Yeah, that's Elon. He thinks big. Like it's the management team is thinking like this, but Elon is thinking on a completely different order of magnitude." And
That's so true.
yeah, and I think in that sense, it increases the potential of Tesla and everything they do, but it also increases some risk to Tesla because Elon is not playing the safe route. He's not just trying to maximize revenue and profit, et cetera. He's really trying to push the envelope. And that's what we saw a little bit with the Model 3 ramp, where he was pushing it. He decided not to raise capital and decided just to like stick it out and no matter what, we're gonna make it. And there are times where um, like that's worked out. Worked out well for Tesla and for Elon. I think there could be times where that pushing of the envelope could backfire and could cause a ripple effect. Not necessarily destroying Tesla altogether, obviously, but it could be a big hiccup, a big roadblock. For example, I mean, next year you have these 4680 cells that are supposed to come out, but what if they can't get the production up and running? Like, what is Berlin going to do? Like, they have this huge factory with all these machines, but they can't get cells. And maybe they'll ship cells initially from Fremont. Maybe that's the goal. But Austin too, right? They're slated to produce the Model Y, but if they don't have enough 4680 cells, like you have two of the biggest factories that Tesla's making completely dependent on new technology that hasn't been proven out. I think, in my opinion, no sane CEO in the world would choose to do this. Like it's really
Yeah.
Elon pushing it, saying we're gonna make it happen, you know? And like
Yeah.
as a Tesla bystander, most people are like, yeah, yeah, sounds good, sounds good, sounds great. But like the complexity involved in making everything time together to for all the pieces of the car and the batteries and everything to match perfectly to ramp production at the right time, it's like wow, that's just like mind blowing to me, and it's a lot of risk. I mean, I'm bullish, you know, that Elon can do it in
Yeah.
Tesla, but yeah, it's a lot of risk. Yeah,
No, that is true. He does think big. He doesn't, and I mean that's what we like about him. We're like, yeah, like do that, and like he, and everyone like gives him a hard time. Well, he didn't deliver exactly in time, but man, did he deliver? Like he did deliver. Like that is really true. Like I mean, just even looking at his personal life, I mean, that is a personal thing that he did tell Justine, like, I babies. He's like, we're gonna have nannies. Like he was already there. I think they haven't even been there with PayPal, and he's already like, no, we'll be taken care of financially. So, it is really interesting to watch him. I mean, that is one of the things. He is kind of one of the biggest assets to Tesla, to SpaceX. And he's such a visionary who has such this overwhelming yet methodical and very very thought through visions that if he was to pass, that would be really hard. Just like we see Tim Cook, he's running Apple, but I mean, it's not the same visionary potential that Steve Jobs gave to Apple. So that in itself would be a detriment to Tesla if they were to lose Elon. I don't know. I don't
yeah,
know how you would replace him like that. So
yeah, yeah, definitely. I've copied some of your recent tweets. I wanted to get your kind of feedback or your um, thoughts on what they mean.
okay.
Yeah, so you tweeted out this one tweet says, it really doesn't matter, or it really matters if you have a good heart, not just talent. I think that's by Elon Musk, and you tweeted out that tweet. Like, why did you tweet that out? Why do you think that's important?
Well, I think looking at society in general, we can run into people who have a lot of good talent. Um, I mean, this gets into the analogy of psychology and identity. Like, I mean, a psychopath, for instance, can do really well in the workforce because often they don't feel and care often how people are doing. But in general, when you're trying to create a community or just the vibe in general to keep something, the longevity of something, you want to make sure people have a good heart about it because we don't want to go around doing horrible things to people. And you can run into that. It's kind of like the idea of communism. People are like, it's great. I'm like, it's great if everyone has a good heart about it. But you run into the psychopath who's like, great, minions, I'm to conquer here. Um, I think Elon probably has ran into a lot of people in general that have wanted to climb and to prove themselves, but they forget that they're not in it, alone, and it's just for glory's sake and not for a greater good. I mean, just to push yourself, just to be. I mean, I don't know. There's different sectors, but to be number one for being number one's sake is one thing, and it may be good for you, may be good for some other people by default. But I think having a good heart is the most important thing. I mean, when life is done and said, and we're on our deathbed, like we look back, we look at the heartfelt things more than we do the things and the people around us. But that's
Yeah,
my take.
yeah, definitely, totally see that. Yeah, it's like in some ways, I think Tesla having a strong mission that's
Mhm.
bigger than the company in themselves helps attract kind of those hearted people who aren't just in it for, let's say, their position or the rank or whatever to gain, but they're really trying to do something much bigger for themselves. And I think that's definitely something that sticks out. Um,
Yeah.
you tweeted, "Don't do things you don't believe in." Like, what do you mean by
Yeah.
that?
So Laura Deming actually said that. She lists some different points. I don't know if people know who Laura Deming is. She works with telomeres in the biotechnology industry. She's kind of a young prodigy who was homeschooled in New Zealand. She wrote that in actually some of her stuff, and I thought, that really does make sense. Sometimes we get in the habit of doing things we don't believe in. I mean, there's one thing to be in military and chain of command, and you have to do it, or a job, but in general, I think we just do things that we don't really give thought to, and why we do it. And I think people should really do things more that they believe in, and I think they'll find themselves aligned in what they're skilled at and what their passions are. So that's kind of a new one that I found the other day, and I put it out there because I really liked it. And when I find something I like sharing it. I mean, whether it's my favorite food or my favorite tweet or my favorite person. So yeah.
Awesome. You shared a quote by Plato. It says, "Those who are able to see beyond the shadows and lies of their culture will never be understood, let alone believed by the masses." What do you mean? What do you mean by that?
That's a hard one. I think that has to do with the present moment, what Plato is possibly talking about. I mean, because I think in the future, sometimes we look back and we see things where people have called things out before before the majority of the masses understood it. Um, I just think that has to do with more like the visionaries, probably like Elon, that that can see things that other people can't, or things that people just feel is the common consensus we all should do. Kind of like, I mean, this is kind of tricky because we are in COVID and we are using hand sanitizers, the alcohol, but the whole antibiotic from like triclosan, where everybody in mass and everybody should use it. And now we're just discovering the vagus nerve and the brain gut like talking, and how, the antibiotics actually aren't good. But at one point it was sanitized and used antibiotics everywhere. And there was people, I'm sure, who were speaking up and saying things, but it wasn't until in reflection that people were saying things. But there's also along the lines of just of people who just have the wisdom, and like they're almost old souls too, to some degree, or just the ability to see further than a lot of people. And I mean, I think a lot of people aren't there, but I don't know what. I like Plato. Plato's great.
Awesome. One last quote. You said, you quoted, "Love gives of itself, it is not bought," by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. What do you mean by that?
So I think a lot of people live life to accomplish things and get somewhere. I don't remember exactly where my thought process was in that, but realizing that they live their life to put themselves and go forward. And at some point, I think people think riches and popularity or things like that will come to them, but you can't really buy sincere love. And I think people have learned to tune out what a sincere love is in their lives. They're people who generally care, unfortunately. I think that's probably the gist of what I felt and thought about it. But you can't buy love like that. Love that's unconditional. So yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I just wanted to thank you for not just the time, but what you do for the Tesla community, and just how you've been active, supporting the company, the cause, etc. And just yeah, thank you for just being generous, with your attitude and your time. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you, Dave, for having me on. You too. Your stuff is great. And I'm glad that you're in the community.
Great. Yeah. And I wish you the best. And yeah, hope to meet you in person soon, and, get to know you better. And I'm glad, I'm sure my viewers will appreciate just getting to know you as well. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Dave. Have a great day.
Okay. All right. We'll see you.
Okay.
Bye. All right, I hope you enjoyed that conversation. If it was helpful, please like this video and consider subscribing to my channel. I'm also curious to hear from you. What are you most excited about for Tesla in the year 2021? And what are your expectations for a Robotaxi rollout in coming years? Please add your comments in the comment section. In my channel, we're looking at investment topics and the world through different angles, trying to dig deeper and get to the essence of things. All of my videos are also available as a podcast. Just search for Dave Lee on investing in your favorite podcast player. I'm also active on Twitter, and my handle there is HeyDave7. We'll see you in my next video. Thanks.